What's up? I think it worked. Welcome, everybody, to SuperAero Live, which is like Regis and Kathy or Kelly and whatever, but it's just me in my basement because it's a pandemic. Anyway, excited to have you all here tonight. If you're watching this at home live, thank you so much for coming. If you're listening to this later on, or watching this on YouTube, or listening to this later on a podcast or something, thank you so much for listening. Really excited to have you here. I think we're just going to get right into it today with my, I'm going to pronounce his name incorrectly. I think it looks like Doornbos, like the headphones. He says this Doornbos because he is a boss. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mike Doornbos.
I think you could just go with, my grandmother said boss, so let's go with boss.
There
Grandma's
you go.
Always right.
There he is. All right, I figured out the switcher. He's on the screen.
Right.
There he is. What's up, Vren? Thanks for joining me tonight.
Oh, happy to be here.
And I don't know if you're drinking an age-appropriate drink at home. I've got a little brown water I'm going to work on tonight. You said it's a little later by you.
Did that come out of your? Yeah, did that come out of your well?
Yeah, it came out of my well. Yeah, here in rural Wisconsin. So, hey everybody. As Mike and I talked, we're going to get into a conversation. If you're watching this live, hit us up with some questions, with some comments. We'll answer them as we see them, and we'll just have. I think, Mike, we were talking about doing this. Why I wanted to do this, and for me, times are a little weird right now, to say the least. And
why do you say that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just this pandemic or whatever.
I'm looking for your toilet paper roll behind you. I don't see any towers of toilet paper.
Those are over there in the basement.
Oh, yeah. You don't want people to know where your stash is, though.
Yeah, no. Well, we're digging in. I'm looking at it right. I got plenty. We shop at Costco. We didn't hoard. It just was a thing that we already had enough.
Right.
Anyway.
Nice.
All right. So where were we talking about? We were talking about why we're doing this. So for me, I miss flying right now. I'm not flying during all of this, but the thing I miss the most is just the hangar flying. And so this seems like a fun way we can all get together and hangar fly together and just hang out, even though times are strange.
A little secret though, I'm still flying.
I totally think that's awesome. And you
don't
should
tell anybody.
No, you should continue to do it. It's just a different situation for me. All the planes I have access to are shared by a lot of people. Just a personal decision. I don't begrudge anyone that's still flying right now. If you can do so safely, and we're going to talk about your awesome airplane in a little bit. So anyway.
Oh, I thought you were going to say my awesome safety record. I don't know if it is or not.
Do you have an awesome safety record?
I think so. I don't have anything to talk about in that regard, I don't think. Not that anybody knows about anything. There was a time when my autopilot tried to kill me, but other than that.
Well, we've all had that. I'm just going to say hi to a couple of people, and then we're going to dig into some questions I've got for you. Hey, Just Plain Silly's here. Angle of Attack is here. Sarah's here. Sarah, I don't know if I can confirm it, Sarah. You agreed to be the next victim on this show next week. We're going to talk about learning to fly.
She's in Wisconsin. That's like too much Wisconsin in one show.
Well, we'll pronounce things weird. Yeah, for sure. We'll say bubbler.
Right. Bubbler. Okay.
Soda. All right. Also, Just Played Silly. Big plans. Doing a lot of work tonight, but then I saw this, so no chance of being productive now. Yeah, man. Sorry. You're in it for now. You're in it to win it now. He's on short final right now. All right. So, Mike, I just wanted to start off with learning a little bit about your aviation journey. I think a lot of people see you on social media right now. They know a lot about the things you're doing now. They know you maybe from your podcast, which we'll talk about in a second. But just take me back to the very beginning.
Way back.
Yeah, okay, take me to the very beginning.
Way back in 2015.
Yeah, hit me.
So I started flying in 2015. I turned 40 in 2015. And so I've been flying for 5 years. I started flying January 1st at 7 a.m. So New Year's Day, 7 a.m., 2015. and I soloed about 2 weeks later, and I was flying. I mean, I did my PPL sometime in March. So it's been about 5 years. I was in the Navy all through the 90s, so I've been around aviation for years and for years.
Oh, that's
I don't
awesome.
do it I don't do it professionally. But yeah, so I've been flying since 2015. That's way back in the day.
And what
seems like it.
What was the inciting, like, why did you decide you needed to get in the air?
Oh, I had decided a number of times. I was just trying to think of how many times I had bought a FAR AIM and the Sporties course between 2005 and 2015 with the idea that I was going to go and learn to fly, and then never did. And, I don't know. Let's call it a midlife crisis. You get too many years in a row where you say, I'm going to do this thing next year. And that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I got started a little earlier, but basically the same thing. Had some life events happen. It's like, dude, I gotta get this going on, right?
It didn't hurt that my kids were, adults at that point. So believe it or not, at 42, my youngest was an adult. Both my kids can buy alcohol, and I'm in my mid 40s. So, so that means we had no money in our 20s. Like, because we had we had toddlers running around in our 20s. So. No, but it really was I'll get to it next year kind of thing, like 10 years in a row. And you can't do that. You gotta just go and jump. And one day my wife said, I don't care what you got to do, find the money somewhere, just go and do this. Cause I'm tired of hearing you say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it next year.
That is an awesome wife.
I think I'm going to keep her. It's been 23 years. So we've been together. We've been together 4.
Congratulations!
Thanks.
That's amazing. I'm just gonna say hi to a couple of people that showed up to say hi to you.
All right.
Ryan Krueger. So Ryan Krueger, good to see you, buddy. Supporter on Patreon. Sarah says Cheeseheads unite.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. We can unite. We'll do that. I gotta maybe move that. That's like in my face. I don't know if you. There's a crayon right down
That's
my
all right.
face.
I'm covering up my COVID-15 right now,
Yeah.
which is showing up right here. That's why I'm hiding behind my mic.
Marty Burian, he's a good friend of mine, but I always mispronounce his last name. He just showed up to the chat. Thanks for showing up, Marty. Marty's been in a bunch of SuperAero videos. Mike, you might recognize his name. He's did the Oshkosh episodes with him and stuff. So awesome, guys. Thanks so much for showing up. Make sure to hit us up if you got questions for Mike. So Mike, I got to ask you. Well, you tell me, where do you want to go first? Do you want to talk about do you want to talk about your podcast, which is where you and I kind of met, or do you want to talk about the flying and building you've been doing? Where do you want to go first?
We could talk about the podcast. I mean, I was a really early podcaster. I've done 100 and what are you, 114? You were the last podcast episode.
Yeah.
I started in 2009. Believe it or not, this same microphone. So I've been using the same microphone for 11 years now. I definitely got my money's worth out of it. We did 94 podcasts in 3 years, and then we did 20 more in the following 6 years. So it's been on a little bit of a downward curve. Primarily space-based. My Wikipedia entry, if you look me up on Wikipedia, I don't have my own Wikipedia, but my name is on Wikipedia as being. So it says something like the foremost expert at the Google Lunar X Prize. So the podcast was a lot about the Google Lunar X Prize. I've been a speaker at the team summits. That prize is now defunct. No one won. So and I was probably one of the first people to predict that no one was going to win. But I traveled all over with doing that, and anyway, I've been doing that a long time. And it's kind of shifted towards aviation because that's where my personal interests have shifted.
Sure.
But it's been fun.
I noticed on the, like, I was just reviewing all the podcasts again in prepping for our little interview today, and I noticed that you've got like these really heavy hitters in like space, and then there's a break. And suddenly you have a lot of names in general aviation that a lot of people watching might recognize. I think you've got like Charlie Becker on there, who's like, if you join EAA,
Charlie's,
him.
Yeah, Charlie's awesome, and he was very quick to say yes. Sebastian Heinz has been on, yeah, for sure.
Like some legends
And
of home building there.
yeah, and it corresponded too with a move. So we moved to North Carolina in 2012, and you can see the podcast shift in 2012. Kids are in high school at that point. It was a hard thing to do, and kind of ramping back up. I'm excited for space in May. Elon Musk and SpaceX are going to fly people into space commercially for the first time ever on the 27th. So that's pretty great.
Yeah, that's a whole part of aviation that I love, but I just don't. I feel like I'm so absorbed in general aviation right now that I don't like. I just love the space travel side of things, but I don't like participate in it. Like I'll watch the launches and I'll get excited about seeing.
That's a difficult thing about space is it's difficult to participate in.
Only a little bit.
In aviation you can actually participate in it, but in space it's very difficult to be an actual participant. It's easy to be an observer, but to have an actual contribution, it's not like you and I are probably going to go into space. I think that's unlikely. Now, but I will probably fly in an airplane this weekend, I would think.
So let me ask you before we talk about airplanes some more. Virgin Galactic. I don't know how you feel about Virgin Galactic.
So my podcast number 2 of my Evadot podcast was Will Pomerantz, who is now I don't know what his title is, but it's something like VP of Special Projects at Virgin Galactic. I don't have high hopes, I guess, for them. They've been very good at saying next year, which of course I would be hypocritical in saying that I didn't do that also with certain things, but they've been saying next year for like 10 years. I think that Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos's company, and SpaceX are a lot more interesting.
The reason I was going to ask you about that is I think at one point they said like, hey, for $250,000,
yeah,
you can go to space. And,
a suborbital flight.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, but like, for all intents and purposes, space for me.
Okay. Okay, I'm with you.
So I already think I know the answer to the question. Then, if you're like, it's suborbital, like, would you do it? If you had would you pay it?
No, there's a lot of other things I would spend $250,000 on.
Like a sweet airplane.
Sure. Yeah. No, I would go to Mars. I would go to Mars one way. If it meant going one way, like you were not going to be able to come back, you'd have to figure out, to live there for the rest of your life, and there was no coming back. I say that it's really easy to say that when I know that's not a possibility, but I would rather do that kind of thing. Now, I wouldn't think that was going to be $250,000, but
okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think I would. I mean, I don't know. That being said, I don't have $250,000 to spend on that, so. But no, it doesn't really excite me, and maybe that's part of their problem.
I mean, if I had it, I would do it.
Okay.
But it'd have to be like after a bunch of stuff, right? It would have to be after like, a bush plane or it'd have to be after a lot of stuff. Maybe
yeah.
My kids.
I'm already planning the build after this build, so I'm like already thinking in my mind like I'm not going to have $250,000 to spend on something.
Right? Like I don't know. I guess my kids want to go to college probably. I don't know.
Well, it's optional. I don't know. It's all online now. Ask me how I know. I got a kid in college right now, and it's online as of last month.
Right.
So
exactly. I'm gonna divert real quick to a couple. Divert. Did you like that aviation term?
I like that. Yes.
I'm gonna. Oh, Noah Goldstein is here. Noah, welcome to the feed. Also, Just Plain Silly says, after being quarantined with my family, I would Mars one way too. Yeah, man, I'm with you. We've had some tough days over here. Also, Sarah had a question. She asks, what was your most humbling moment in aviation?
Oh, humbling. We haven't talked about the Tiger yet.
We can use this as a
But
segue.
switching from, maybe we should go back to it and talk to about it. But this time last year, I started flying a P Baron, so a pressurized twin turbo Baron. It's 325 horsepower per side, and learning to fly a twin I had 120 hours. I was a VFR pilot. That's a lot of airplane to go to. And just going through my instructor, Bill, who he has a handlebar mustache. He's like a bazillion years old. He had a Bronze Star in Vietnam for some kind of dragging somebody out of a hole. He's kind of a tough old guy, and he would just pull an engine like in kind of a critical part of flight when I'm trying to learn how to wrestle this new airplane. And in an airplane like a Baron, now you go from 325 horsepower per side to 325 horsepower on one side, and the airplane very badly wants to roll over on its back when you do that.
Yeah, I've read about that.
I don't have a particular one of those, but there were a number of them that were surprising, and I thought, wow, this could get away from me very quickly, and it gave me respect for it.
I think that's part of aviation just in general is there's always something like the next level, right, is always going to just get you like a little bit more on that, turning up the dial on that humble meter.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Tiger. We should just talk about that plane in a second, but I'm just going to meanwhile, while you and I are chatting, looks like Just Plain Silly, he's getting ready to go ride the Vomit Comet. He's asking you, would you spend $20,000?
I know a number of people who actually are flight engineers for, and I'm sure, boy, the name of the company is now escaping me. That's terrible. Tim Bailey, I'm looking at you. I don't think he's on the chat, but I know a couple people who help run that.
Of course you do.
I do. Sure. Yeah, I would do that. But I was in the Navy, so some of that kind of stuff doesn't, I've taken a trap on an aircraft carrier, for real. So, it's like, okay, sure. We'll go up and be weightless for a minute.
I'm getting a little frustrated. Well, here you go.
Sorry.
So reach out. So if you know people on that, then I would like to say that you should connect the SuperAero channel, the Just Plain Silly channel, with those people, okay. And then it looks like in the chat they're planning an episode already about that.
Excellent.
So let's talk about this plane,
the crazy Baron.
Yes. So you sent me some photos, and okay. I'm gonna click over to some photos here.
I can't see them, so you're gonna have to tell me what.
Okay, so it's you. This first picture is of the plane looking aggressive.
It is, and then quite the paint job. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this first picture, if you're listening on a podcast or something like that, this first picture is of the incredibly well painted aircraft, and you looking pretty good. The kind of standing on the wing there.
Thanks. Oh no, I see it now.
Yeah, there it goes.
Okay. Yeah, that was before the COVID-15.
So, and I want to click through here so people can see see,
if you're going to have an airplane with this kind of aggressive paint job, at least it's really well done.
It's amazing.
I don't think the pictures even do it justice. We didn't paint it. So the company that I work for bought this airplane. We bought it like that from an Indian billionaire who has a Wikipedia entry because he's trying to escape extradition from the Indian government.
Oh.
Because he owes them, it's a lot of zeros at the end of the number that he owes us.
I love it.
Not owes us, owes the Indian government. But he painted it that way. But if you're gonna have an airplane that's painted like that, it is really, really detailed. We figured it. He probably spent $50,000 on the paint job. It's airbrushed.
It is. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It is incredible.
Some of the nose pictures you can see there, some of the things that are hard about owning an airplane with this kind of paint job is, a twin. This is a pressurized airplane, so we're in the flight levels in it. It's not uncommon to pick up ice on the way up or the way down, and when you pick up ice and then the ice comes off the airplane, the props throw the ice off.
Sure.
And it hits the nose. So you can actually see in a couple of the pictures where we've got some patches that have chipped the paint pretty badly. So we're trying to figure out what to do about that long term.
Oh, I think I see a couple kind of like
they're painted black.
Yeah, I mean, you got to use it
for sure, and it's a working airplane, right? I mean, we use it for business. The business owns it. I fly myself and a couple executives around to meetings. In it, the very first flight I ever had in it, we landed in Phoenix. And I'm trying to remember which jet it was, but it was a $15 million jet that pulled up next to us. And Todd Duncan of Duncan Aviation got out of his jet in a probably $4,000 suit. And he comes running up to me like a little kid with his phone, and he says, "Hey, can I take a selfie with your airplane?" Right? I just thought it was really, really kind of neat that he did that.
I mean, I would like to take a selfie with it. I'm looking at I just peeked through to a picture for those of you listening. It's a picture of the cockpit. It looks mostly steam still in there. You got some GPS you're working and stuff, but
yeah, it's an 84. So and we just got the problem with a Baron, and I didn't know any of this stuff before we bought this thing, is you can't put just any hardware in it. There have to be STCs for it. And, we got a quote for $170,000 panel upgrade, which, thanks to COVID-19, we decided not to do, just because we thought maybe we shouldn't spend any money on anything we don't really need. But yeah, it's mostly steam gauges, but it's super capable. I've done probably 10 approaches down to minimums, and the autopilot captures and will fly an approach just fine. So it's really capable airplane.
I just switched the picture here to a picture of you. Is that you and your wife?
Yeah, probably.
I don't
see the picture.
She's in aviators, red hair.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's her.
She's smiling. You look like you're concentrating.
I am pretty notorious for being pretty even emotionally kind of person. So there's a lot of pictures of me in Disney World where my whole family is screaming on the ride and I'm just sitting there. So this is just my face. I promise I'm a really happy person, but this is just my face.
I'm going to click through a few more here just so people get a sense. I mean, you've had some adventures in this thing. You sent me some pictures. I've got a picture here of you flying over. Is that the Golden Gate?
Yes. Yeah. So that was one of the first flights we were ever in. We actually did turns around a point on the North Tower of the Golden Gate Bridge. We got permission from ATC to do it. I was pretty green at it at that point. The airplane's very, very fast. Up until we bought this, I was flying 172s and Diamond DA-20s. So this airplane cruises at 205 knots true.
Whoa.
It's somewhere between 18 and 22,000 feet. So trying to do turns around a point, really, really slowing the airplane down, you're at 100. And at 100, you really need to have the flaps down.
Yeah, I mean, it looks. It sounds like it's as fast as it looks.
Yeah, it's fast. It's like I said, it's a P Baron, so the sweet spot being a turbo with the pressurization. I use ForeFlight pretty extensively with this. I only fly at IFR, and the sweet spot fuel burn, versus true airspeed is between 17 and 22,000 feet.
Wow.
So
you're up there.
Yeah.
You've beat my absolute altitude record that I've ever had was in a 172 at 16,000.
Oh, I've been up to 12, but yeah, that's crazy. I'm surprised you were still making power at 16.
Barely. Just barely. So speaking of altitude, the next photo in this little slideshow we've got here is like some beautiful mountains.
Yeah, that's probably the Rockies. We brought it home. We bought it. It was in Petaluma, California. So we brought it home from Petaluma. The first trip ever was coast to coast. So I'm in North Carolina. We brought it to Asheville. We did Phoenix. The airplane ended up being down for 2 weeks. So the first flight, we had to leave it there. We actually flew home on Delta. Somebody forgot to tell me that P-Barons are really expensive, and they have a lot of, something's always broken. Yeah, so I don't know exactly where this is, but I've now been over the Rockies with it twice. So I also was in California. I'm in Colorado in October with it.
So you sent me some photos of some flight plans, and I think those might be good stories for us to go through. I've got a photo of like the panel at night looking super dope. I mean, if anyone's new to aviation, I think the thing you need to know is that the more gauges your plane has, the better. It either needs to have your plane either needs to have like all the gauges, or it needs to have like no gauges.
Yeah.
Like the more or less, the better.
Yeah, and I think we turn. Well, it actually doesn't look quite this bright in the cockpit at night. I think probably that's camera exposure.
I don't know how this photo got in here. Like some super sweet patches that someone sent you.
Oh, those were probably on the hood of my Jeep, I would think. Are they SuperAero patches?
They're SuperAero patches. I'm gonna just pause for a second and say, if if you would like some SuperAero patches, you can go over to patreon.com and search for SuperAero, and you can get some patches. How sincere was that for a plug? Was that okay?
I liked it.
All right, let's get back.
Who did the design? It's actually really great.
That was me.
Wow.
Yes.
You're multi-talented.
So the story about the patch, because you're making me talk about myself, dude. Was I work at an ad.
Good. I got tired of talking about me.
Okay, I'll give you a break. So I work at an ad agency, and surrounded by all these amazing artists and people who are super talented in their specific fields. You got these art directors, creative directors, writers, surrounded by all these people. And I wanted to create a patch, and so I went to one of the art directors at the company. His name's Austin. And I said, "Hey, Austin, could you design a patch for me? I'll give you like a case of beer or some pizza or something." And he was like, "No, but you can design it yourself." And he Mr. Miyagi'd me.
Wow.
He like handed me some paintbrushes, and he was like, "Go paint the logo." And then I took paintbrushes and I like painted it like on a bunch of different S's, a bunch of different U's, a bunch of different P's, and then I scanned them in and I like arranged them and I showed him. It was like he was my professor or something. So he totally Miyagi'd me into like, wax on, wax off. I did it myself, which was probably more effort for him than just like cranking something out. But I was appreciative of it. That's how he
taught you to fish.
He did. Good old Austin. I mean, I still kind of wonder what it would have been if he would have designed it. But anyway, all right, let's get through the Tiger Baron because people are asking about your home building.
All right.
So you talked about
Yeah, the Baron's boring.
Well, I mean, it's cool. I think the thing is you're doing a ton of amazing flying in it. Like there's a photo here of like you're definitely an IFR.
Yeah, and that's probably the weirdest thing about the whole journey is, I got my IFR rating a year ago, April. So and we only fly at IFR. So I mean, it's just such a different kind of flying than I was used to. Yeah, that's hard IMC right there. So that's pretty normal. I've got some pictures of it pretty iced up. It does have boots. It does have hot props. It's got a heated windshield. Not uncommon in the winter to pick up ice on the way, especially on the way down.
And so you fly this for work?
Yeah. So, yeah, I have a day job. So this is not what I do for a living. We ended up with this airplane because I was willing to volunteer to fly it. We travel a lot for work. We do cybersecurity. and it's me and a couple other people. I'm not we're not Part 135. And we didn't want to be charter operator either. So, we only take it places if I have a reason to go, right? So it's that in the normal course of business, then we can use it as a business airplane. We definitely didn't want to go through all the rigmarole of, having, crew rest time and all that other stuff. So, but I do strategy for the company, so I have a reason to be at just about any meeting anyway.
Oh, shucks.
So yeah,
so
it's rough.
Marty,
it burns 32 gallons an hour, so it's not really something I would fly around for fun.
Yeah, that's like a whole flight for me.
Yeah.
Marty says, I'll give you a free IPC. He's an instructor. I'll give you free IPC for a ride in the Tiger Baron.
Well, you have to get in line, Marty. There's a big long line of people.
This is so there's a photo up right now of some amazing cloud surfing. It looks like you're just above the clouds, IFR.
Yeah, and I wonder when I post those on Instagram if people are getting tired of them, because I'm up there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe another, this is another shot I'm taking of this, in this airplane.
I mean, I'm not tired of them yet. I'm just going to click through a couple others because I want to talk about home building here, but we've got it looks like you're doing some engine out practice. You talked about that before. What other? Yep. You sent me some
pretty challenging.
Here's one that I figured there was a story. There's a picture of a GPS. I'm guessing you want us to notice the speed.
Yeah, look at the ground speed. I don't know if you can see it. I think that one says 304.
It's 300 and something. Oh, there we go. I can move this little thing. I'm still learning the software, folks.
I'm pretty sure that one's that was over Lake Michigan. We had a killer tailwind, like an 80 knot tailwind over Lake Michigan. I took a World War II veteran. Yeah, it says 304. So I took a World War II veteran to a reunion at the Air Force Museum in October in the Baron. So he flew in the back. He's 98. And on the way back, we had to fight those headwinds getting out there, so it took forever to get to Colorado. But on the way
forever,
back,
relative term, right?
Well, we had an 80 knot headwind on the way there.
Okay, so not nothing.
Yeah, but on the way back, it was an 80 knot tailwind. So, so that was three. I think that's the fastest I've had it over the ground is 304.
That's amazing. There's another one here. I just wanted to ask if there was a story, but this is a map with a bunch of waypoints all over the United States.
Oh, that's just a good example of learning to, the airplane's really fast, so I end up going to doing a lot of much more advanced flight planning. So, a Florida to North Carolina trip is pretty normal. It takes, 90 minutes. But when you fly an airplane like this, the answer to the go, no-go question is very often go, because it's so much more capable than, like a 172. We can get over the top of things. We can go around things. And I think that one that you were showing that were waypoint. Oh, I don't know what the one you're showing now.
Looks like Colorado, Michigan.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this was the trip to go take this guy, Bob, who was a World War II vet. This was all the legs I did in one weekend. So, we went to go pick him up in Battle Creek. We flew out to Colorado. We stopped somewhere in Kansas it was a 40 knot, about 35 degrees off the nose wind on the ground. When we landed at that one, that was a pretty good crosswind for me. In mid 40s, I think. Yeah, and then we took him back to Battle Creek. We did it. We ran an air end up on the coast of Lake Michigan. I took a guy back to Washington D.C. and then flew home, and that was in 3 days. So I forget the number of miles, but I think it says it.
Many.
3,200 miles.
Yeah, and only 482 gallons of gas.
Yeah, that's an estimate. Yeah, that's only.
Marty,
it holds in 192 gallons, so that's another thing to get used to. Of, I'm building a Xena 750, and the fuel capacity of the Baron is more than the empty weight of the Xena.
That's amazing. Marty says he'll pay you to give you an IPC for a ride in the Tiger Baron.
Nice.
I mean, I'm open for taking a ride in it too. I want to talk more about this home built, but there's one picture. There's a picture you sent me here. I think it's this one, the guy in a red sweatshirt. Is this the gentleman?
Yes, that's Bob. He's 98. He's a World War II veteran. He was a B-17 pilot, and he bombed Germany in 1944. Ball bearing factories and all kinds of things. And he is famous because he was part of the Bloody 100th. So his squadron took off one day with 13 airplanes, and he was the only plane to come back that day.
Whoa.
So they literally lost their whole squadron. The guy sitting next to me is Peter Tippett. He actually invented the computer antivirus. So you can look up Dr. Peter Tippett on Wikipedia. He's a flight instructor, and he helped me get some of the hours. I needed 100 hours of dual before the insurance company would let me solo this airplane. 100 hours.
So to put that in perspective for folks at home, I'm just kind of a recreational pilot, not a recreational pilot from the rating perspective, but private pilot, but recreational flying. And I've only got a little over 200 hours. It's not a race, but 100 hours in this plane would be like half of my flying career over the last, 8 years. I think that I don't want to check if there's one other. I mean, we'll just wrap up the conversation on this thing. The flying you're getting to do with this is beautiful. You're hitting some places that the capability of it, right? Like the ability to go to these places and see these things in this aircraft. It feels like when I look at these photos, it's and everyone in I've got a Facebook chat that isn't public right now, and it's buzzing off the horn right now. People want they all want your plane. I mean, I think the reason is it feels like a healthy mix between the airline capability and the general aviation accessibility. I mean, I know you said it's a difficult airplane to fly, but the flying you're doing in it, the places and altitudes you're at, I've seen there's like some huge clouds, you're cloud surfing. It just seems like a really amazing.
Yeah, I took it in for an annual at a 3,000 foot strip. So it'll get into that's about the shortest that you would want. The approach speed's 120. So 3,000 foot runway seems awfully short when you're going 120 knots. But it does slow down and land nicely if you're on speed. But yeah, it feels. I feel pretty fortunate. I couldn't do it if it wasn't a company sponsored thing. The guy that owns the company, he was just really adamant about having us save a lot of time. We save a ton of time. We often will do a 3-day trip in a single day.
Sure.
Because of having the airplane, right? I mean, it's not uncommon for me to be in New York. I'll be in New York Monday morning and in Virginia Monday afternoon, and then home in North Carolina by dinner.
That's the dream, right? That's like the aviation dream. I mean, I have a lot of aviation dreams,
Me too. I still have a lot that I have to get done.
That's one of them. Okay, so things have escalated in the chat. I just want to look down here. Just Plain Silly says, I will pay Marty to give me a ride, and we all get an IPC. That sounds like a pretty good. Good deal.
If I needed an IPC, which I don't.
Oh, savage!
You don't want to know how many. I mean,
savage.
You need six approaches to keep instrument currency. Now I am flown a lot in the last couple of weeks, but I think I had 94 approaches in the last 6 months.
That's a lot.
So I flew it. I had almost 350 hours last year.
That's a lot. I'm jealous of your hours. Another question here coming in from, I'm going to call you JPS. If Oshkosh happens, will you be there? I don't know if that's for both. You answer that first.
Oh, that's a whole nother show. Probably not.
Okay.
Probably. Probably not.
Probably not. I mean,
I had a wildly disappointing. I need to do a whole show and explain it. We had a terrible 2019 Oshkosh experience. We drove home in the middle of the night.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
I live so close. If it happens, I'll be there.
Yeah. I live 900 miles.
Yeah, but you just gotta take the Tiger Baron, man.
Yeah. Well, that's different. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I'll be surprised if we have Oshkosh. I will. I don't know. Maybe it's outside. Maybe it'll be okay.
I think we'll just have to wait and see on that. Yeah, I mean, I would love for it to be there. I also just I want to be safe, and I want all the. I think I said this quote yesterday. I was talking to another aviator. You know, the whole thing about like come for the planes, stay for the people. That Paul Poberezny kind of famous quote. And it would be a real drag if all these people that I'm getting to know and care about all either got sick or whatever. So
for sure,
I'm on board with doing whatever the safe choice is. Maybe we can do it virtually or something like that.
So somebody in the chat asked what HUD that is.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about that.
That's actually not a HUD. That is a heated windshield. So that is a windshield heater that heats that part of the windshield, and ice won't form on it then.
I was gonna say a HUD would be cool, but that
I do have a HUD that I have been playing around for my experimental. I do have.
Rock on. Sarah says she'd love to see us both.
Yeah. Sarah knows my story too, so
Sarah's awesome. All right, so
yeah.
So Sarah had another question. Let's segue over. She asks, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but she asks, what's the best part of building your airplane? Your own airplane. So
the question, the best part, I have learned to enjoy it. In the beginning, I was building it so that I would have an airplane at the end, and I have really learned to enjoy all the things I don't know how to do and figuring them out. It is so much more work than I thought it would be. I mean, I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but I didn't really grasp it until I was in the thick of it. I'm in year 3 of what I, like an idiot, said was going to take a year to do. And I get a lot of ribbing from the local guys because I came, I bought the kit and I said, I'm going to have this thing flying in a year. And they were like, whatever, like, we'll see it when it happens. But I've really been enjoying all the process. I have a wall of shame, which I'm really, really proud of things I've screwed up. So maybe I enjoy that the most. I think that's what it is. I enjoy the wall of shame, the mistakes.
I think it's all about learning, right? You have to be ready and willing to learn. Let's take a step back. I'm going to put up some pictures you sent me of, oh, dude, you look totally boss. Hot Doornbos?
What?
You look totally boss, man. I got this picture of you.
I can't see it.
You're drilling or riveting something here. It looks like it's like
I can't see it. So
I'm going to describe it to you. There's a metal thing, and you are.
There's a metal thing. It's a metal airplane.
Yeah. You're drilling or tightening. It's maybe bolts. Maybe it's like a spar. It says experimental.
Oh, I see it now. Okay, so that is. I don't think she's in here, but that is the Viking seatbelt upgrade. So I'm putting in 4-point harnesses. So those are seatbelt attach points that are getting put on the main spar there.
Oh, rock on. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what this is, because.
So this is a Zenith 750 Cruiser. So it's a high wing, 2-place side-by-side, all metal, pop riveted or pulled riveted airplane. The 2014 One Week Wonder is this airplane. So my wife was absolutely 100% on board with building an airplane. We started out in the garage, and her car stayed outside the garage. So she was actually really committed to the whole thing. And she had one request when I was picking an airplane, because it's agonizing to try to. There's a lot of great kits out there. And the one request is she wanted side-by-side seating. So she didn't want a tandem. She didn't want an RV8. A lot of guys around here have RV8s and they're cool, but she didn't want to sit in the back on a long trip behind me.
Sure. I gotta say, you hear a lot about guys talking about aviation-induced divorce syndrome. I don't think that's going to be a problem for you.
No, I don't think so. She's not a great flyer. So even in the Baron, and the Baron is 6,200 pounds. So, a windy day in a Cessna is not really that big of a deal in the Baron, but she doesn't do great in the airplane. So she's got one of those zappy bracelets, and that seems to be working. But she's been super supportive of it for sure.
That's amazing. I mean, I think it's hard. I mean, it's a time thing. Like for our family, the struggle is time, right? Like the aviation takes me away from the family, and I've got these two small kids, and it's all about how do you juggle the time requirement that you need to be a good father, a good husband, right? Like that against this self-care thing. You know, I was talking to Chris from,
and they're not old enough to do it yet.
Yeah, my kids are
not really.
I can't be you know what? I'm gonna go flying, but I'm gonna bring the oldest with me or something. Yet they're not really old enough to comfortably experience it. So I think that's just it's not that families don't support the aviator in the family, right? I think it's more about it's just there's always a game of what's being subtracted. So it's this really rare and special thing when you have a family where you have people who are also passionate or, and you're...
I don't know if she's passionate. She just left me do it. I'm in a different situation too. My kids are grown, right? So I don't have that. If I go out to the hangar, which I probably will tomorrow morning at about 6 a.m., I'll probably work on it from 6 to 8 tomorrow morning. I'm a morning person. I was in the Navy. But I'm not taken away from anything, right? My kids are grown, so I'm not missing breakfast time with the kids or anything like that.
I'm just clicking through some other photos here to show people kind of the structure of what it is. I mean, it definitely this is a good one. This is a wide. It looks like you've got the wings on. You've got it's standing on the gear. No engine yet. No interior yet. But it's definitely looking very airplane like.
Yeah, I've picked an engine. I just haven't bought it yet. I didn't want to buy an engine or avionics until the rest of it's put together.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit, you said, obviously the side-by-side was a factor. What other factors went into choosing the cruiser?
Well, when I picked the cruiser, I had about 60 hours in my logbook. I'm in the mid 600s, I think now. So thanks to the last 2 years, really. I thought maybe I wouldn't kill myself in it. It's a really slow landing airplane. That was part of it. So I thought, high wing airplane, it's something I'm kind of familiar with, pretty easy to fly. A couple other things. It was a kit I thought I could finish. So I've watched a number of people building RV-10s, and they didn't have RV-10s when I started this, but I just know that an RV is probably twice as many man hours to finish, and I was worried about finishing it anyway. So I thought, okay, well, if an RV-8 or RV-7A was going to take me 2,200 man hours, do I have that in me, right? I have a day job, right? It's not like I can work on it full time. 2,200 hours is more than a year of full-time work. The other thing that was really appealing, and you can do this with a number of kits now. I wasn't sure I even wanted to build it. So in a Zenith, you can buy all of the component kits separately. So I bought the rudder and I put that together, and I thought, I can do that. I'll buy the tail. So I bought the tail and put that together. And then I bought the fuselage and put that together, and then I bought the wing. So it allowed me to spread the money out over probably 18 months.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and I feel like with that, as I've learned a little bit about Zenith, they're one of the heavies in the industry, right? So you can feel confident that you're not going to This is not an advertisement for them, but just one thing I feel like the ability to do that, to spread that cost out or spread that risk out, also relies on having a company that can that's been around a long enough time to.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think that the active community is really important. Zenith RV, Vans has a really active community. Sonex has a really active community, because you're going to get to parts where you're thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know how many cruiser builders there are right now, but it's probably in the hundreds. There's hundreds flying, I would guess, or maybe like 100 cruisers flying. But I think the active builders is in the hundreds. So, if you ever have a question, it takes a few minutes on a forum to get, 6 people's opinion on something. And that's been, I think, a big part of the long-term success of it for me.
So Ryan in the chat is asking, how do you stay motivated with such a long process?
Good question. So I've been working on it 3 years. I didn't touch it. I probably worked on it 4 days since Labor Day up until about a month ago. So from Labor Day to, what is that, mid-March, I didn't touch it at all. So I would call it fits and spurts. I don't know that I've been motivated all the time. I'm starting to get to the point now where it looks like an airplane, which is helping.
I mean, it looks like a lot like, I just switched the picture to what, like, it's definitely an airplane.
It's an airplane. There's a lot to do. I'm definitely in that. It looks like an airplane. When is it going to fly? And then when I look at the list of things to do, I try not to be overwhelmed by that. There's probably 400 hours worth of work left before it'll fly.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
RVN 782 Papa says, the best part for me building my airplane is opening up the hangar and seeing an airplane I built. Yeah,
and I think that's part of staying with it. Is now I've committed to finishing it, right? So I'm committed to finishing what I said I would finish. So that's just kind of stubborn. I think I'm just stubborn, and that's part of what's keeping me going. My hangar mate, you can't see it, but there actually is an RV6 in that same hangar. So he and I share this T hangar. It's actually a pretty big T hangar. So it's nice to see another finished airplane that flies a lot. That helps.
Speaking of RV6, 782 Papa says it's addictive. After an RV6A, now I'm building a Hats Classic. I'm a sick man.
I have been thinking pretty seriously about what'll be next. So I mean, I'm probably, I would guess, if I can keep up my current pace, this will fly this year. That's my goal anyway. I would really like it to fly. This COVID thing didn't help the schedule, but I don't have that much left to do. And I tend to be able to carve out a lot of time in the summer to work on it. So, but I've been thinking about what's next. So it hasn't burned me out. I've been thinking about a Velocity, except that I don't like sanding. And that just seems like a lot of sanding.
Yeah, those, I mean, they look like spaceships. And I bet you are really into it just because of that, right? It's like, it feels like it shares a heritage with the other passion in your life.
I would really, so my favorite experimental airplane is the Long Easy, but I don't fit in it. So I'm Norwegian, you can't see it, but I'm Norwegian and Dutch. I have really, really broad shoulders. And I have sat in a Long Easy, and I sit in it like this, and I thought, no way am I spending hours in flying in this thing. So it's just not a practical thing for somebody that's my size. I'm 6'2". I have a really long torso, so I sit high in it. It's just not going to fit. So the Velocity seems like getting a Long Easy only with, headroom.
So I'm obviously maybe not obviously, but I'm definitely like a few years off from being able to build something. Time is more valuable than money right now, and money's a little
I don't
tight.
know. I'm looking right behind you. I see a room for a rudder.
Yeah, well, here, if I change the camera angle, wait, over there's a rib, a wing rib there in the. I built that at EAA, the little rib building, wood building workshop. You should do that if you're there.
When's your plane gonna fly?
Well, that they were very they were very specific that airfoil will not fly. They designed one that you can't put into an airplane.
Right, liability. That's a lawyer thing. I'm sure.
Yeah. But it's funny. I think about for me, like, building an airplane has always been like a dream of mine, and I think it's because there's this. I mean, obviously, it's a lot of work as you're experiencing like firsthand right now. But it's
think a lot of work.
It feels like the performance per dollar on all spectrums, even the really slow aircraft, right? The performance per dollar always seems to outweigh the certified aircraft, and it just feels more accessible. So there was this moment when I was trying to get up the gusto to like become a pilot, and I was like, am I ever going to be able to actually afford this?
Right.
Like, is this a thing I'm ever going to be able to do? And there's Sport Aviation magazine shows up, and I open it up, and I'm reading about RVs, and I'm reading about Kit Foxes and Rands and like Zenith, and like all these aircraft that are like, honestly, like I don't own cars like this, but I know people who own cars or trucks that are more expensive than these home built aircraft. So that for me,
although that Baron cost more than my house, so
yeah, for sure,
it did. It cost more than my house.
Yeah, I totally believe it. So I mean, I like right now the thing I keep looking at for some reason is the Flybaby. Do you know about this?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why. Like a little 1-seat open cockpit maybe goes 70 miles an hour. Like that just seems like something that I don't know if it's a cost-driven thing or I'm longing for my J3 Piper Cub days, that part of my aviation history.
Yeah, that's something I miss in flying the Baron is you miss that visceral feeling of flying in an airplane. It feels much more. Yeah, it feels like you're further away from it. And I've actually never been in a Zenith, which is kind of funny. So I don't know how many hundreds of hours I've gotten into building one, but I've never flown in one. So I'm assuming that I'll like it.
You're almost like too far into now. You can't sit in one.
I better like it. How about
that? So hey, we're kind of coming up on time, and I just want to chat a little bit about your aviation career has been, you said it's been shorter, but you've experienced a lot, and you're flying now. You've gone from flying, the little like bug smashers like I fly, all the way now to this kind of heavy hitter aircraft that you're using to you guys are saving money based on money versus time with that, I'm assuming.
If there's more than two of us in it, then we're saving money.
So, and you're flying this very mission-oriented aircraft.
Yes. And
a big part of what I do and the what people are watching my channel, I get a lot of comments back about like, whoa, like, this is a thing I could actually do, or this is, most backhanded compliment ever was, hey, like I watched you do stalls and I thought, oh, if he could do it, I could do it.
True.
But so that's a long-winded way to ask the question, which is, do you if someone's thinking about getting into this, they're watching this right now, they're stuck at home, do you have any advice for folks who are thinking about putting a toe into aviation? What would I'm just sorry, I looked down at the chat thing, and of course I see the comment "build a hats,"
right,
which just seemed comical to me in this moment. Anyway, do you have any advice to folks who are thinking about getting flying?
I think you and I are kind of in the same boat in that I think either one of us would go out of their way to try to share this with people, and I think you'll find that in the whole community. Mm-hmm. I think as a general rule, the general aviation community is very open to helping you discover those very things. So I would go to I would go find your local EAA chapter. I'm the president of the Western North Carolina Pilots Association. Those kind of organizations are all over the place. Go to a meeting. Well, maybe you're not going to go to a meeting anymore. Go to a virtual meeting. I don't know if we're ever going to have meetings again, but I would get involved in a local organization and get somebody to, walk you around the airplane and touch it, right? And maybe you can get up the courage to go for a ride and just get exposed to it. That's what I would do. That's what I did. That's how I got started.
And I think the thing I would add, I think that resonates with me. I think what I would add to that is that first step is the hardest.
Yes, first, yeah.
And I will call our brothers and sisters in aviation out or in, or whatever the right way to say it now is, that there is a little gatekeeping. There's a little bit of gatekeeping in this.
Yeah, there can be.
And I think if you understand why, that then it'll help you overcome it. And the reason people gatekeep is because it's so special. Once you have it, right? It's so special, this thing that we get to do. And once you put in the time, and I feel like training. I said this on another podcast, so I feel like I'm just repeating from that. But like training is the great equalizer, right? Like aviation is the great equalizer in terms of, yes, some of us may end up in jets, and some of us might end up in J3s, but all of us have to fight through that same thing, like to get to that point, right?
Sure.
So I would just say, like, put yourself out there, even if someone at the airport's maybe not that excited. Like, go find someone else. Someone is going to be excited.
That's true. Yeah, that's true in any part of life, right? You can always find a grumpy person, and don't let one
absolutely.
person. Yeah, I'm the king of finding the grumpy people. So
yeah, for sure. I don't know. That was a weird. I feel like that didn't come out totally right, but we're live, so I can't edit it out. Right. I guess just the idea.
This is actually my first ever live show. I've done 120 podcasts, and I've never done one live.
I don't want to
Yeah.
Also,
keep it PG.
I was gonna say my first live show too.
Oh, right. So hopefully we did okay.
I don't know. Hopefully we did okay. All right. So anyway, long story short, don't listen to anything I said. Listen to what Mike said. Get your butt to the airport. Just go do it. I think the other thing that I always add is that it's way more affordable than you think. Either through home building or whatever. I mean, if you want to spend $1 million, you can. If you want to join a flying club, like some of my flying partners have chimed in here, we share the expense of an aircraft, and it makes it possible for us. So there's just lots of different ways that people can get involved. And I think obviously you're with the home building side of things, like you're experiencing one of those avenues to make it more accessible.
I'm sure I'll come up with a new avenue.
I want to get a last call out. Anyway, you guys have been awesome in the chat today. Thanks so much again, Sarah, Just Plain Silly, Marty, Ryan Krieger, who else is in here? Noah was in here for a while. We had Chris from Angle of Attack. You guys all, thanks so much for coming in and saying hello to us and chatting with us tonight. If you guys have any other questions before we call it a night, I have just a little bit of well water left to drink. If you have any other questions for us, hit us up right now. Otherwise, those who might call it a night. It's late. It's late for you right now.
It is 11:45.
On a school night.
On a school night.
But for me.
For you, anything. I might even go to Oshkosh for you.
Oh, wow. Let's do it. You can crash at my house beforehand or whatever. All right.
Oh, all right.
Marty
we're not going to crash any Barons at your house.
No, sorry. I should use it differently. Thanks, dude. It's been fun. Cool. All right. Well, guys, I think maybe that'll be where we wrap it up. Mike, thank you so much for being on the inaugural episode of SuperAero Live. I've always been a big fan of your podcast. Once I discovered it, I couldn't stop listening to it, and been following your actually, do you want to plug? Do you want to plug some Instagram accounts or anything?
Sure. Well, it's Mr. Doornbos, so it actually looks like Mr. Doornbos.
I assumed it was Mr. Doornbos.
It is Emma. My name is actually Michael Robert, and I'm such a dork that I did not even see it when I signed up on Twitter. That's where that Mr. Doornbos came from, that it was Mr. Doornbos, and my daughter pointed out that I was making everybody call me Mr. But my name is actually Michael Robert, so I thought I was being clever. So, yeah, I'm on Mr. Doornbos on all the things, and then Evadot.com.
Awesome. Very good, man. Well, it's awesome to have you. Next podcast, everyone, is going to be next Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Central Time, 1:30 Zulu. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have Sarah on. She's going to talk, Sarah Nisler. I'll ask her how to pronounce it.
I did the same thing last time. Yeah.
I don't know
what it is.
She'll make me pay for this right now, and and she's gonna be on to talk about her learning to fly journey, women in aviation, and just kind of like flying dreams. So that's what we're gonna be doing next time.
And she has a home gym in her garage now.
Yes, if you follow her on Instagram, she does have a home gym in her garage, and she's rocking it out.
Pretty awesome.
Just go look her up on Instagram, and you'll see what we're talking about. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching tonight. Really appreciate you spending your Wednesday night with me and Mike. Mike, thanks again for joining me. And if you like what we're doing on SuperAero, well, what I'm doing on SuperAero, make sure to like, subscribe, share this out to your friends. We can even share this aviation journey with more people. Someone asked here about other videos. There are definitely other SuperAero videos coming out. We have a couple things in the back catalog before I run out due to the pandemic, so I wanted to get this thing started so we could all hang out and chat and have fun together while we wait for the world to kind of restart. So anyway, thanks so much, guys. Go get some rest.
I will try.
Thanks again for joining me, and we'll catch you guys next week. All right, thanks, Mike. We'll see you.